The views and opinions of this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. There is substantial risk of loss in trading futures and options, which you should carefully consider prior to trading. Well, what started out as a positive day on Friday as we tried to end the month of May and end the week on a good note kind of faded as we went through the session. We found more red on the screen once again to close out the week and the month. It's really was a tough week, especially this grain trade and in cattle too. Let's talk about it. Joining us for a conversation, market analysis with Dwayne Bussey from Bolt Marketing here on Market Talk. Dwayne, welcome back to the show. It's good to talk to you. I know I had you on a few weeks ago when I was out on baby duty, and appreciated you stepping in with Mr. Pearson there while I was away. So it's good to catch up with you again, my friend.
Yeah, you too. How is baby duty going? Is you look fairly rested and well slept. I think you slept more than I did last night, probably.
I got some rest last night. I will say that more so than I've probably gotten in a few weeks here. The running joke I've said to people, I haven't bought stock in Folgers or Maxwell House or some other coffee company yet. But still considering it. But no, things are going good around the home. I appreciate you asking. Man, oh man, what a month it was in May. I know in your neck of the woods, having some challenges across the parts of the plains, northern plains, upper Midwest to get this spring plant finished with dodging rain and severe weather and more. Yet you look at the crop progress reports and we're right at average or above it. So, I mean, this weather story, this planting story, it's like the market, some folks want it to be a story, but it's not really. I'm judging by the fade we saw in the grains really here to round out the month, Dwayne.
Yeah, absolutely. What a crazy month. It seemed like everyone struggled a little bit to plant versus what we thought it was going to be in February. And I think maybe that's where the story came from on social media is that, we're struggling. I think everyone just had good expectations. We didn't have any snow really up here in the upper Midwest and North Dakota. I thought, man, we're going to get this up slapped in. Now, locally on my farm in Northeast South Dakota, the whole month of May has been just kind of I wouldn't say disaster because I don't have standing water, but I get, a quarter to a half inch rain every couple of days, just enough that we can never quite get going. So I know it's been 2 weeks since we planted anything. That was 90 acres of corn that day. And so we got a ton of soybeans to go. But I guess to summarize, I think this is a localized problem because like you mentioned, we looked at the crop progress report, the Dakotas, Iowa, Illinois, the nation as a whole, the planting pace is above the 5-year average. So the market, I think, did the right thing by selling off this week because the story is basically over. There's maybe from last Sunday, 9 million acres of corn to plant yet, but historically the market never cares about that. It'll either get planted or it won't, but we were not going to find out if it doesn't get planted until June 30th or even later than that. So no, it's not a story. And therefore the sellers took control this week.
Very true. Well, I know that drought monitor, a lot less color on that drought monitor out Thursday than I've seen in quite some time. And to your point about it being localized, to that point, how much prevent plant do we see? Do we see any late shift from corn to bean acres? And if we see any of that, doesn't matter. Like you said, I mean,
right.
We won't know probably for quite some time. And really, in the grand scheme of it, doesn't matter to the markets.
No, I don't think it does. If it's your farm, that's hard to hear because you feel like it's a big deal. It's your livelihood. You can't get going. And, one, to answer the question of like how much prevent plant, I guess we don't know yet. Yes, we've gone through the late plant date in corn now here, even for Southeast North Dakota's today. But guys can keep planting if they want. And soybeans, it's the 10th of June is the late plant date where you can take prevent plant. So if it keeps raining, we can end up with a decent amount of prevent plant. But let's go back to the March 31st planting intentions report, Jesse. I think the acres were too low then. Remember, we had this major drop in principal crop acres year over year, and everyone was wondering, well, where is it at? The only other times in history we have those big decreases is when prevent plant's really sharply higher. Well, what if the two just counteract each other? Maybe we do have a little bit more prevent plant than we were anticipating, but we were too low on the intentions before. And then come June 30th, corn acres are just steady, or maybe still could be higher. And boy, that would frustrate everyone, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I can't imagine, and we look at this, we look at, okay, the weather story, planting, etc. We've had the dryness issues and concerns in Europe, Black Sea region for wheat. That
Right.
feels like that's cooled here at the end of the month. So
Yeah.
weather seems to be like on this little back burner here. A story that I don't think is getting talked about enough in this window is just our poor demand either for US commodities. That's
Right.
another piece of this puzzle too, that I mean, you hear rumors of China getting ready to bring in Argentine corn this summer,
Mhm.
slow export paces, weekly export sales, nothing to write home about. So that's another kind of bearish side of the coin here, I think, in grains, Dwayne.
Yeah, yeah, it is when you really break it down, especially new crop soybean sales. Man, our export sales there are horrible. One of the worst starts ever in a time where USDA has us increasing. Was it 125 million bushels year over year? And we're nowhere near last year's pace. So we'll just flip that the other way and say we're going to export 125 less. That's a 250 million bushel swing in
Mhm.
demand from the current forecast till now. So man, it is scary, no doubt about it. We have time to make that up, but with that news being out there or that poor demand showing a little bit, it just makes it a little bit easier for market to sell off and maybe grind lower. No weather scare. We're not going to run out of old crop supplies, are we either? So here we sit, and now what? I think I've got a lot of guys around between 25 and 35% sold on new crop, and the cash only guys are more aggressive, of course. And I'm wishing we were more sold, but we didn't get a really great opportunity either, did we? 496 and 3/4, I think, was the high in December corn, and I know that because I had more sell orders from my farm at 497. So
Mhm.
that old one tick away deal. I think maybe you let it go a little bit. We will probably see another. Actually, I almost know for certain we're going to see some sort of weather scare this summer, Jesse.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier there's also some guys already talking about hot, dry forecasts this summer. But I think it was New Zealand's weather forecast put La Nina back to the third quarter instead of this summer, which end of the summer, I guess. If that happens, then it's not that hot and dry, but there'll be stories yet. I talked to a lot of producers, of course, throughout the nation. You talked even more, probably. The crop didn't go in the best shape. And those sins I'm talking about, like mudding it in, sidewall
Mhm.
compaction, things like that, it's not going to show right away, Jesse, but it might show at the end when the combines run. But okay, so I wouldn't fight the market all year long saying the yield won't be there when right now you mentioned the drought monitor, less than 5% of the US corn is in drought, less than 3% of soybeans. Drought's your number one yield robber. So the great yield debate is going to go on and on here all year long. And I'm not going to push it much below a trend line right now because of what you said. There's just no drought out there.
And to your point, we were chatting off air about the weather, starting to see some of those stories now saying, oh, hot and dry forecast this summer for the US and this
Yeah.
heat dome working up from Mexico and whatnot. So I'm with you. I think there's going to be a weather story at some point here. In the meantime, though, you mentioned new crop, December corn, Novi beans, finishing up some key areas on Friday, 476 D's corn, 1190 Novi beans, and looking like kind of finishing below that here.
Right.
So to that point, if I'm a producer, should I be doing some sort of protection of new crop here, just in case this is a break even farther to the downside, Dwayne?
Right.
What do you think?
Let's start with corn first off. We're right at kind of some support. We dropped to this 466 before and then started another upward trend. There's that. Then 460 is the next support. If you need to make some catch-up sales, I guess I'm okay with it. I'd rather you maybe use like a put option strategy or something here that you have some upside potential, because none of us want to settle for this price. But if you're asking me over the next month and a half, which way is the market headed? I guess I'm going to say lower, because we just mentioned we don't have that bullish story. On Monday
Mhm.
afternoon, the crop conditions report comes out, and no matter what that number is, don't pay attention to much as that. Is the fact that it's going to trend higher the next couple of weeks afterwards. Because even me, the producer, can tell you that all the crop needs from here out is heat. And eventually, I swear to God, it will warm up, even though we're at baseball games at night with people with blankets on. When this warms up, you're going to get a darker green color. That crop condition score is going to go higher. So we may be looking at record high crop condition scores. That's not going to help this market rally. So if you want to do catch-up sales, sell the board, great. As far as soybeans, you probably should make those catch-up sales. We're still at a pretty high elevated level, of late 1183, 1185 area. Like you mentioned, demand doesn't look good. China's prices are near a 3-year low. Their meal supply is at, I can't remember how, a 3-year high or something I thought I saw. So, and they got more soybeans coming, right? So just, man, that kind of sucks to talk this bearish on a Friday, but I guess I'm going to tell you that, yeah, I think you can sell that to get some catch-up sales. I mean, obviously we should have done it before. You should have those marketing orders up in place and be hit. Above 12 was a really good place to get some beans on.
We're talking with Dwayne Bussey from Bolt Marketing here today on Market Talk. Dwayne, let's shift over to livestock trade a little bit here. Let's talk there. And we've been kind of bearish so far. Cattle's probably not much better here this past week. I'd say between some lingering bird flu headlines. I know Wednesday I saw on your Twitter, and I was thinking the same thing. I was like, okay, what bird flu headline tanked the cattle market? Well, it wasn't a bird flu headline. It was ractopamine found in traces of beef in a JBS plant in Colorado, and China banning from that plant, and all yada, 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 you name it. Here we go. More news headlines driving cattle futures lower, Dwayne.
Yeah, it was a week full of headlines, and I got to admit, really caught me off guard because going into the week, we're coming off record high cash cattle, right? And I'm watching the numbers, fundamental. There's just no supply. I mean, wow, I'm just all excited because packers just have to pay up for it. And then all of a sudden the headlines come out, and I giggle a little bit because it started with the JBS headline, right? That China is banning exports from their Greeley, Colorado beef plant, processing plant. That news is kind of old. It's been out for a while, or JBS knew about it, but they just kind of chose this time when the market's high to release that. and maybe they were waiting for confirmation. I'm speculating a lot here, but and that of course turned the market. Lower volume though, Jesse. So I think this is probably a buying opportunity in the cattle market. I don't think the rally is done yet. Like I said, low volume means I think it was just lack of buyers. A lot of people didn't want to buy it, stepping in front of it. Today, a lot of people don't want to buy it before not a holiday weekend, but just a normal weekend. So yeah, headline after headline. And then yesterday, remember, we started to rally, Jesse, a little bit. And I thought, okay, here we go. This JBS news is done. And then we found out there's another employee at a dairy in Michigan that has bird flu. I don't know if you have heard today. I haven't heard his symptoms. I'm going to just make an assumption. It's a lot like the other two individuals, very mild symptoms. He's probably already back to work. Probably feels better than most of us do today. It's not a huge deal, but all those headlines. And remember, these are all computers trading other than a few of us yahoos out here. So they take those headlines and run with them, don't they?
They do. And it's crazy to think that this is the market environment we're in now. I didn't even stop to look at any other market factors. My immediate thought was cattle feeders are down 4 on the board here. What headline hit? I immediately went to social media to try and find an answer, not look at some of the other market implications, because things like all this inflation data, the outside market pressures and more, that played a role too, I think, in some of the moves down in cattle this week. But it's just, I think, the symptom of what we're getting used to in these protein markets is headline news driving these markets and not necessarily fundamentals.
You're right. Yeah, when that happened, it's called what I would call a flash crash, right? It just all of a sudden the price just dropped dollars, and I didn't even get to see the working orders like go and play. It just someone hit a sell 200 lot, 250 lot, whatever, and it took all the orders that are out there, limit orders sitting there to buy, and just took them all, ran it. Just crashed lower. And I think you probably saw my social media. My X account was like, "So what happened?" And you just sit back and wait for the headline. No human's fast enough to find the headline, read it, and trade it before those computers and algorithms do. So, they just crash it down, and then we all have to wait. Well, I wonder what happened. And then you get this JBS news a little bit later in the day, and you find that out. but it's just the market where we live in now anymore. We have to be ready for that. Is it frustrating? Absolutely. But these computers also give us volume, so us hedgers can get in and out of positions too. So, and sometimes they push it higher too, believe it or not. We always complain when they push it lower, but they can push it higher too, believe it or not. And if you got your limit orders sitting out there to sell, like your new crop corn, it's okay, it works well. And now, we should talk about the expansion of limits in the cattle market now. I had to write it down, I think, $750 for live cattle and $925 for feeders. Jesse, I'm almost certain today, I think you're probably going to see cash cattle trade higher this afternoon. And I think a lot of people know that and want to buy the board, but I think people don't want to buy the board because they're just a little bit worried. What happens over a weekend if somebody drops a bomb or whatever, terrorist attack, and you're down $925 in one feeder contract, and all of a sudden your kids aren't going to college? I mean, I think these expanded limits are scaring the average trader out.
Well, and thank you for bringing that up. I haven't touched on that here in the last couple of days, but man, oh man, I mean, as if we didn't have volatile markets already.
I know
that. And I mean, in the grand scheme of things, how often do we necessarily go limit up or limit down? It's, doesn't happen all the time, but boy, oh boy, just to know that it can happen and go to that level and happen pretty quickly in this environment. I'm with you. That is very scary. And it makes you think twice about your risk management, especially in the cattle trade, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does. You and I have talked before about LRP being a valuable option right now for cow-calf guys. And, here earlier in the week, I mean, I was bullish and felt like the market's going to go up forever. It felt strong. And then, boom, 2 headlines happen. And I'm licking my wounds on a Friday afternoon. But that's a trader. Cow-calf guy could look and either buy put options or LRP and protect these near record calf prices for this fall, and then just not worry about it. And that's really what we're here for, right? As hedge brokers, is to help guys out in that situation, manage your risk, like with LRP, which is basically glorified put option, but it's through your crop insurance agent, that you're not emotional and you go out and do your job, which is the best of everyone in the world, and not worry about these crazy headlines.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Hogs, that market's been kind of tough. About the only one finding some green in a little small quantities, I'll say, here this week. Any notes for you in that protein sector? It sounds like demand's an issue over there. It seems like, anyway, is what people are pointing to.
I think so a little bit, but I don't know. I think it's gone too low too fast here, or too long of a downward trend. I really think these last couple of days were forming a bit of a bottom. Sorry, everybody out there in the hog market. Now that'll crash on Monday, I suppose, but it's like put it out there live. But I really do, and here's the reasons why. Cash hog prices have started to go up in China. Our exports this morning were fantastic. Our cash market yesterday was up for the first time in a while. And it should be, seasonal demand should pick up in June. I really think that's going to help us here. So I think we're near a low. Doesn't mean we have to go all the way back to 106 or 110, but I guess I'm just going to kind of suggest that we're near a low here and go from there and see. Hopefully there's some more positive news next week. I saw somebody joking yesterday on Twitter about, hogs, the only thing green. It's the safe haven place to go, when everything's red. There's nothing safe about trading hogs, I can tell you that.
No, there's not. There's not. Well, I know we're about out of time. We haven't even really touched on all the inflation story or anything like that this week, or the outside markets. And I know we could probably spend another half hour doing that. So I'll leave it to you like this, Dwayne. Final thoughts. Let's just go there. I mean, what do you want producers to remember in this window here as we enter the month of June, across these markets here, looking at their risk management, things like that? I mean, what do you want folks to really take home here? What's your message today?
I think the great message to take home is that weather rallies, when you have a large old crop like we do right now, are meant to be sold. Look at what we just had here. We had a weather scare rally on planting delays, just some uncertainties, super wet in Iowa. Maybe it was actually dry to start the spring in Iowa. Anyway, that rallied the market. And once this week came around, we found out it did get done. the market sells off, doesn't it? So, okay, but that's done and over with. We can't back up and do that over again. I just talked about how I'm almost guaranteed there'll be some sort of weather scare this summer. So now make your updated marketing plan with scale up sales from these levels and maybe a little bit lower because it's going to be tough now, and just sell up again when we get this drought in Iowa scare that it's going to happen like in 6 weeks. I might as well throw it out there, right? You'll get some sort of drought scare. Sell that because weather rallies are meant to be sold. We'll debate the yield forever, but with drought this minimal in the U.S., Jesse, we're going to be fairly close to trendline yields. It's going to be hard to get away from that. Remember that subsoil moisture is going to be built in now. So when people are dry for 2 weeks, they have reserves to go off of. So I think it's going to be hard to kill this crop in 2024.
Some people might not love that message, but I have to tend to agree with you there, Dwayne. I think you're spot on. I really do. It's going to be a wild ride here over the next several months ahead for sure. If folks want to reach out to you, talk markets, go over that marketing plan and more, I know they can reach you there at Bolt Marketing very easily. How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can help us. We can help them set that up here, some sort of marketing plan. You can call us directly, 605-448-2365, or easiest just to check us out online at boltmarketingllc.com.
Dwayne Bussey with Bolt Marketing. Always good to talk with you, my friend. Thanks so much for being with us here on Market Talk, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Sounds good. Have a good weekend, Jesse.
Make sure to subscribe to the Market Talk YouTube channel. You can watch our latest interviews with top market analysts in the country, find bonus content, and much more. It's easy. Just go to youtube.com/@MarketTalkAg and hit the subscribe button. Or you can search for Market Talk Ag on YouTube.